It's a two-part process. First, we give our gifts to the holy powers, and then secondly, they give their gifts to us. Now, the way that we give our gifts involves taking a drinking horn, such as this one that you see here. We fill it with honey wine, which, as you'll remember, is called mead. And it is through this that we give our gifts. Now, the way we do this is that we will pass this horn filled with mead around the circle of people. Each participant will put their hands onto the horn, thus transmitting their spiritual might, their loyalty, all these intangibles, their love of the holy powers, from heart to hand to horn. It makes the round of all the people, with each individual putting their love, their devotion, their loyalty into the horn. Then the person who is officiating raises it up high and offers all of these gifts to the gods and goddesses. Then the mead itself is poured out as a libation. Remember that the mead, the honey wine itself, is not the gift. It is merely a symbol of the gift and a vehicle for the gift. The actual gift is this soul essence, this loyalty, this spiritual might and main that each participant gives to the gods and goddesses. So that takes care of the first part. We have given our gifts to the gods. Now, because a gift calls for a gift, we will receive their blessings. And we do that by filling up another horn with mead. The person who is performing the ritual then raises that up high again so that the holy powers can infuse it with their blessings, with their might and main, with their inspiration, with their power, with all the things that we get from them. And now we have to share this might with the assembled people. And there are two ways to do this. One way is to take an evergreen sprig, pour some of the mead into a bowl, a blessing bowl, and to then dip the sprig into it and sprinkle the assembled people with the mead that has been charged with the might of the gods. This is a way of physically transferring, through the medium of the mead, the power of the gods to their people. Another way to do this, somewhat less traditional, but something that works well if you don't have too many people actually there, is to pass the horn from person to person so that each person can drink of the consecrated mead and thus internalize the power of the gods. So when do we do bloats? Often bloats are done at the major seasonal festivals. In the middle of winter, this would be the familiar festival of Yuletide. In the summer, we have Midsummer. And throughout the year, at other points in the calendar, we have important seasonal events that we celebrate with bloats. Now, bloats can be offered to all the gods and goddesses generally at the same time, or they can be offered to specific deities, specific gods, specific goddesses, for more or less specific needs. Throughout this presentation, I've talked about the gifts of the gods as being largely intangibles, things like wisdom and inspiration and encouragement and good luck and all of these things. And all of that is true, and perhaps that is more common in our day-to-day life in terms of the things that we actually need. But in the old days, bloats were often given so that one could ask for victory in battle, or fertility, or for good crops, for prosperity, for many different ordinary, mundane things that really have their comparative points with us today. We don't fight our battles with axes and swords, but we all fight our battles in daily life. And often we would like a little more inspiration, a little more wisdom, a little more luck to help us to get the things that we really need. So that's the way that we and the Asa True Folk Assembly give bloat to the gods and goddesses in today's world. Now, 1,000 years ago, if you had gone to a seasonal festival, like maybe Midsummer, or in the wintertime, perhaps the Yuletide festival, you would have seen something a little bit different, because that was an agricultural society. They raised their own crops. They had their own animals. They raised those animals, and they killed and ate those animals. So had you gone to such a festival, you might well see that an animal was drawn aside, that it was consecrated to the gods and cooked, and then all partook of the feast. And symbolically, of course, the gods themselves partake of that feast as well. Even in this case, though, it's important to realize that the actual gift is not the animal. The gods don't need dead animals any more than they actually need the liquid that is the mead and the horn. Both of these things are representational and to some extent media through which the divine might is given to the people. In summary then, the Blot is a mutual exchange of gifts, usually intangible gifts, between our gods and goddesses and we, their people. In the act of performing Blot, those of us who follow Asatru today are constantly reminded that the gods and the goddesses are not tyrants, they are not our masters, we are not their slaves, that we are in fact their blood kin and their friends. And that is one of the things that we like very much about our ancestral religion of Asatru.